The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 177 of the 9 Years podcast, Thursday the 18th of January 2018 with myself, Nick Draper, and usually at this point I would say the name of Stuart Deakins, but here's the truth of the matter, I have no idea where he is. AWOL. Not heard from him since Saturday, not sure if I've upset him in some way, perhaps registered my dislike for Priscilla, Queen of the Desert or Pink's latest album. But whatever has happened, Stu has enforced a radio silence on this here podcast, so I am officially declaring him missing. But don't worry, you can help the search for Stu by tweeting hashtag #WhereIsStu? But for now, there is a show to record. So to help me stepping in at the 11th hour and making his podcast debut, one Mr. Kevin Boras. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm fine, Can I just point something out? Is it not episode 117? 177?
Did I say 177?
You did say 177, yeah. I thought it was 117. There's been a 61 that I haven't heard.
Yes, in the past week.
No, I'm not criticising. Not my first thing I say on this program is a criticism or I'm picking you up on a typo. But I think you should say 117.
Well, what worries me is having looked at the script. Yes, I do script this thing, which is sad, really. I appear to have typed 177. Now, this is possibly for one of two reasons. Number one, which is the most likely, I'm an idiot. Number two, I was listening to the classic Ash album 1977 and typed that instead, but I just left out the 9.
I was thinking of Charlotte Hatherley and then you kind of got distracted.
I wasn't, but I am now, so...
Although she's not on that, although she doesn't play on that album, but...
She doesn't, no. In fact, she was only on a couple of their albums, but...
She joined for Nuclear Sounds.
She did, which was a bit of a step backwards, but then it picked up again.
Football podcast,
sorry yes. Yeah, we're off topic already. Anyway,
sorry.
I suggest that means...
I go off topic for a living.
I suggest that means you're all right, though. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Not only is today's Kevin's first appearance on the podcast element of the 9 Years podcast, of course, regularly on our Facebook Live broadcasts on match days, but it also comes just a few days after, Kevin, your first visit to Stadium MK and the whole Milton Keynes thing. Yes, takes up most of this week's show, I'm afraid, as not only do we review the game up there in Buckinghamshire on Saturday, but we also have a wider discussion about the relationship, or of course the lack thereof, between ourselves and the franchise, I guess we say abomination, to be polite and
That's a good word, I like that.
family friendly. The George Long Road to Wembley, a look ahead to the visit of Blackpool on Saturday, and a brand new contest for you to enter all coming up. But first of all, that Milton Keynes game, it was goalless on Saturday. Now, there are varying opinions on this result. So, Kevin, I have a nice cliche, although I'd like to think of it as classic question to start.
Oh, okay. Go on then.
Was it a point gained or 2 lost?
Oh, 2 lost. No, I can't see how anyone in their right mind, and I'm not questioning mental health, I can't see how anyone in their right mind can think that's a point gain. I know it is a point gain. Clearly, we got a point. But on the balance of play, we should have won that game. The balance of chances, we should have won that game. And that last-ditch, there's a cliche phrase, last-ditch Andy Barton effort, which he somehow managed to get stuck under his feet, and the keeper had enough time to bend down and pick it up when any decent hit would have gone in, or at least forced a save, and it could have rebounded to somebody else. But I come away from that, for the game, for getting the experience, and of course being run through by their hard boys as we were live on Facebook. That was very funny. 2 points dropped. I didn't come away from that game thinking, we got points. Because not only did we drop 2 points when we should have won the game, the chance to win that and drop them into the bottom 4 was missed, and it was just so disappointing. We didn't do that. But Gillingham had a chance. If we'd have won that game and they'd have lost to Peterborough and they had 9 men, we'd have dumped them in the bottom 4. Didn't happen. Didn't feel quite as bad, but not doing it up there was disappointing. And I No, that's 2 points drop. That's the easiest question you'll ask me all night.
We haven't got to the George Long Road to Wembley yet, but, well, that's still to come. The Andy Barchman chance at the end, classically, sometimes if you have a penalty, I remember Mark Williams many, many years ago against Wickham in the FA Cup, they said his shot about 2 years later will still be travelling. Yes, Andy Barchman's shot still wasn't travelling 2 seconds after he let it go of it. And that has nothing to do with the goalkeeper being in the way of it either.
No. I mean, if that had been a back pass, the keeper would have thought it was under hit. I mean, he just didn't get his feet around it. So I've just seen it on TV a couple of times. Unlike some people, I do actually watch when we play them on the telly. I don't know how he got his feet, because as the ball landed and he took a touch, and it's perfect. It was a foot away from his right foot, and he had enough time. He could have shifted on his left foot, bottom right-hand corner, taken one little touch and a quick shot. That's where Harry Kane is so good. He gets those shots away so quickly. Barch took an age to get that shot away, and it got stuck under his foot. And it was just, you knew that just summed up. It kind of summed up the season, didn't it? In one little iota, one little moment, the whole season was encapsulated for me. Of looking like, oh, no, not quite. That's how it's been since August.
Yeah, I wonder with that chance as well. I think there was a couple of occasions. I think in the first half, Lyle Taylor, and this will make sense once I get there, I promise you. Lyle Taylor had a couple of shots at goal where maybe from distance or whatever, but he seemed to snatch at the opportunity a little bit. Like in his head, he was thinking, he's thinking back to the home game where he missed the penalty, and he's thinking, huge game for this club. I want to make up for that. Andy Barchman probably had the same effect in that he didn't snatch it, but suddenly it dawned on him, I've got a chance to score the winning goal in this fixture.
Yeah. And
it's almost like he's either just lost concentration for a second, or the moment's too big for him, and he's been intimidated by the occasion. You know what I mean? It's sort of been too much. I don't know, but it does seem like you're right.
Well,
on another day, he just punts that into the top corner.
Yeah, they're humans, and we kind of forget, don't we? You forget when footballers go from one club to another, and they think, "Oh, why's he left?" Well, he's been offered more money. If you were offered double the money from a similar job, if you worked at Barclays and Lloyd's TSB, whatever they're called now, offered you double the money for the same job, you think, yeah, I think I'll go. That's what footballers do. They look after their families. And I think we forget that, and you forget that they're under pressure. Okay, it's a League One fixture at the bottom of the table, but he's got 700 people watching him, praying that he scores a goal, and he doesn't. And that pressure is huge. It must multiply massively if you play for Barcelona. You've got 100,000 people. But I just think we forget that they're human beings and they make mistakes. And as referees say, a player may make 5 or 6 mistakes in the game and no one says anything. They make one mistake and they're a disgrace, if you're Arsene Wenger.
Yes. When he sees them, of course. When he sees the decisions that are so wrong. But
yes, exactly. He normally doesn't see anything. I wrote a comedy sketch. It's actually performed on the radio many years ago with Arsene Wenger at the opticians doing an eye test, and he couldn't see any of it.
Well, no, I wouldn't imagine he could. No,
and it actually got performed on the radio in Ireland, of all places. But there you go. Nothing wrong with Ireland, but I wrote it for an English radio program, and it got used in along with my Escher sketch, which is I won't bother with. That was interesting.
Is that
if you're into Escher with the interesting perspectives on art with staircases the wrong way up and that kind of stuff, very, very. I won't go into that.
Oh, okay. Podcast. I just thought it was like a Surrey-based rap artist.
No, not
or R&B.
Escher.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Sorry,
that's all right. We're 177 episodes. Sorry, 117 episodes. That might have been a radio comedy sketch performed on the radio in Ireland. Possibly the biggest departure we've ever had from football. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah,
good. I'm happy with that.
You were speaking about players being humans, and they make mistakes. But one player who did not make any mistakes on Saturday was Joe McDonnell, which I think some people have factored in. When I asked that first question, some people said they felt it might have been a point game. They were quite happy with the fact we didn't lose the game off the back of a positive experience, if not a positive result against Spurs the previous week, and a good run of form over Christmas. So would have thought a defeat would have set us back. So a point was good, especially their thinking going, given that we had to put Joe McDonnell in at very, very late notice. And to be honest with you, we didn't notice him, did we? There was no nerves or anything like you normally get with a replacement young goalkeeper.
We said it on the way back, when we walked back to the station. We seemed to get further away. I thought afterwards, didn't much nearer on the way to the game. Excuse me. But we said that after about 20 minutes, you kind of forgot.
Yeah.
I didn't mention George Long's name after about 20 minutes. Only mentioned it then when he made a great. Actually, it must have been just for half time. He made that really, really good save. Tips. I think it's Muirhead shot over the bar. I said George Long will be happy with that. And I think it was the only time I mentioned George Long's name in the entire match, which is a massive compliment to Joe McDonnell, because I do think that George Long's the best goalkeeper in League One so far. The ones I've seen in the two seasons, I've not seen a better keeper than him. And Joe McDonnell was excellent. He was. Someone used the word foot perfect. I quite like it. Foot perfect. His handling was excellent. His kicking was good. George Long's kicking's been a bit off since he's potentially hurt his groin, hasn't he? He's sort of been shanking them or slicing them to the wings a bit too far. But Joe McDonnell's kicking was excellent. His handling was excellent. He made two really good saves, that one from Muirhead, and the one when he came out. I was going to say like Peter Schmeichel. I'll update that, like Kasper Schmeichel.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and did that sort of star jump, which I think it was he called McCandless or McGrandless, something like that, wasn't it? Conor McGrandless, I think it was called. I think that's who it was. He made a good save. I think it was just kept on, wasn't it, at the far post, not back in the 6-yard box. He came out and blocked it brilliantly.
Yes, right.
They were excellent saves. You wouldn't find many better saves being made all that weekend. I think he was excellent, and I really was pleased for him, because he did okay at Swindon in that away game last season, and Easter, wasn't it? Good Friday. He did fine. And then he played against Bradford and he looked a bit shaky in that away game. I was hoping his confidence wasn't knocked, but I thought he did absolutely fine. And the fact we're talking about it now, positively, is great. The fact that we're not mentioning that he made a mistake or his kicking was a bit poor. You could hear him shouting as well when he's coming from corners and crosses.
Yeah.
Because he was excellent. So if Joe McDonnell listens to this, well done, Joe. You did fantastic.
Joe McDonnell does listen to us regularly, I am told. He's amongst many of our celebrity fans, including Ruth Langsford and Goldie Looking Chain.
Ruth Langsford and Eamon Holmes.
Eamon Holmes doesn't like us. Yes, but Eamon doesn't like us as much. I'm not sure why.
Does he not?
No, not sure what. I don't know. But hopefully the Ireland story brings him around. The thing with Joe McDonnell was, as well, you mentioned the saves he made, but it was, I often think the composure in the decision-making, sort of sweeping up on one occasion, coming in, deciding when to come for crosses and when to collect, and his handling, as you said, was perfect. His distribution, really, really impressed. And what Joe McDonnell probably doesn't have, which, of course, George Long does, is stature. And I know more than most, sizes and everything. But it is a concern.
I'm the shortest member of the team, of course. So
yes, I was.
Podcast team by some distance.
I was.
I'm with you there. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
But I'm making it cleaner.
Okay, thank you. Oh dear, my mind has wandered so much about what you're making cleaner. But the stature-wise, as I say, Joe McDonnell doesn't have that. But you didn't notice it, so very, very happy, and no one would have any issues. If George Long, if this groin injury was more of a problem and it ruled him out for a few weeks or anything, then I think that performance on Saturday has allayed any concerns we had about what we've got backing up behind him, because we're fine. We're absolutely fine. And I
think doubly, though, the people around me were the ones that had seen us play before. Let me point that out.
Yes.
They were impressed with his confidence. And I heard one of them say, I'm just confident when he comes to the ball, he's going to get it. So if we're confident up in the stands, you hope Deji and Darius were just as confident in front of him as they are when they're in front of George Long. But also, we've only seen Nick Zanev in the warm-ups for 4 games. He looks really good. I think he could be, worthy of a place if George goes somewhere else, or if he's injured. Maybe you rotate him and Joe, which I know is not a good thing for keepers. But I think we're okay. I think you're right. If George has this groin injury that keeps him out for a couple of games, as of now, I'm not concerned. But what was quite fun, I thought the headline with Joe McDonnell kept a clean sheet. And of course, with George's illness, maybe he didn't.
I thought you were keeping it clean on this podcast.
No, only that one. Okay,
all right. Well, behind, as you say, Darius and Deji were not worried by the goalkeeper behind him, but we also have to remember, the 2 centre halves are outstanding quality. But were they our centre halves on Saturday in a traditional 4-4-2, or was it more of a 3-5-2? We were trying to figure out the shape. In fact, I was sat with Stuart. It was the last time I spoke to him. Actually, was about the shape of the team, and we were trying to figure it out. The first 20-25 minutes was very difficult to work out exactly what was going on. Deji almost appeared to be playing left back, and Barry Fuller as the centre half, with George Frankham at right back, and then we seemed to switch and we went to a more familiar back three with Bartram and Frankham being sort of the wing backs in that system. Is that how you saw it, or because this is totally differing opinions from people that saw it in different ways?
To me, it was liquid football. We started out definitely as we kicked off. I thought, hang on a second, and then you're looking at the team and thinking, well, we said on, I don't know how much of the Facebook Live was actually broadcast, but we were convinced, weren't we, that George Frankham was going to play left back. You look at that lineup, well, George is playing left back, and then you see George on the right wing, and hang on a minute, who's playing left back? And you think, well, no one. I think we started lopsided. I think Barry was at right back, and then Deji and Darius in the middle, and no one seemed to be at left back. And then they kind of shifted over. If you watch, obviously we're all behind the goal, but where I sat was literally right in the middle. I was level with the penalty spot, about 10 rows from the back, and you could just see them all moving together as a I can say the word unit. Sorry, that's a cliche. 50p in the cliche box, but they were moving together very well. There was never any point where Deji was too far away from Darius or too far away from Barry. But then, as you said, the second half, George Frankham did sort of fit in as some kind of like, I don't know, he was between right midfield and right back. You're going to drop this I don't know what position that would have been in the 1940s, sort of right wing halfback or whatever it was called.
See, if only Stu was here now, we could ask him.
Yes, because he'd know that, wouldn't he?
He would, yeah.
But whatever that's called, it was a strange formation. It wasn't as negative as it could have been, but I don't know. I'm Barch playing that role where he has to shuffle back a lot and help the left back out, or be the left back in some cases. I just think it knackers him out. Can I say knackered on this podcast? You said worse on a joke last week, but
we said a lot worse.
It tires him out. Because the first half, I thought Barch was fantastic.
Yeah,
he got the byline, he got crosses in, he had that shot that hit the post and could have gone over the line, but apparently didn't. Second half, he didn't do anywhere near as much from about 65, 70 minutes on. He just seemed tired, but he was always supporting. He's a very fit player, they're all very fit. But after 70 minutes of running up and down, when you're basically doing two jobs, it tires anybody out. And I think that's what we possibly suffered there, of not having another wide player to bring on in his place. You could probably bring Callum Kennedy on. Well, it's a great cross of the ball, but he's not going to get to the byline like Barch does. So it was a difficult one for Neil. Once he made that selection and stuck with it, it's, he's not the kind of manager that changes his mind and changes formation. Particularly, we've said many times, he doesn't make particularly positive substitutions, and that was the issue.
Well,
in that game.
Yeah, this is what I want to speak about, because Bartram there, you mentioned he has pace. He has pace in our team, and as a general rule, that's where we struggle. He is one player that does offer us that. And then we saw, as you say, in the first half, his ability to take players on and get in behind teams, which we just didn't. For all our attempts at goal, and then, all right, we had the chance that fell to Bartram late on, and we dominated possession territory, all these sorts of things. Didn't really get in behind them, and they knew that. I think the fullback, especially with George Frankham, knew that he had the easiest day of his life, really. He just thought, George is not going to get past me. I'm just going to show him out, and we're not going to have any problems. Yeah. The issue I would have said was, then it came to substitution. We know that John Meads came on for George Frankham, but Egley Khaja just seemed to be such an obvious choice coming off the bench. Yeah. Maybe not for Bartram because it's on the wrong side, but certainly for George Frankham. And then you've got your opportunity. Stu mentioned to me at the time, he said, look, this is where Neil Ardley, and you've just said there about positivity in his substitutions. This is where you make a substitution to go out and win this game, because they were one of the poorest teams I've seen, I have to be honest. I can see why they've struggled so badly and why they're down in amongst the relegation dogfight, if you want to use another cliche. What is going on with Egley that after all this promise that he's shown, that just seemed to... Honestly, I don't think I've seen a game where it just seemed to cry out for a particular sort of player more obviously than that.
Well, as we say with Andy Aziz, that he was so unpredictable, he didn't know what he was going to do. So if he didn't know, then how would the opposition know? I'm not saying Egley's quite as unpredictable as that, but he does buzz around, doesn't he? Again, use another cliche. It's a very cliche-ridden show. I apologise if I've made this happen. But he's very busy, isn't he? He's always running about. He's never still. And he looks like he's not quite sure what he's going to do until he does it, which is it's intuition. That's absolutely fine. But that, as you said, that game was crying out for someone to come on and do something unusual or unexpected. And with all respect to John Meads, he's not that player. I think left back John Meads is great, and central midfield he does fine. But put him wide right, he's not a fast man. He's not a fast player. He's just not, is he?
No.
He's athletic and very strong, and he has many attributes. Pace, that kind of raw pace like Evie has, is not one of John Mead's attributes. It's like saying, well, he's not ginger haired. It's not his fault. Just that's how he is. But that game was crying out, as you said, for someone to do something unpredictable. I'm going to use another cliche, the Maverick kind of thing, where you give him the ball and just go and do your thing. Because Harry Forrester came on with, 15 minutes ago? How many times did he touch the ball? 4, was it?
Yeah, he had no time to influence
things.
things.
At all, where you think, maybe with pace, a pacey player is the kind of player to get on the ball. Because it was a very, very slow game. They're quite a slow team. I think we're one of the slowest teams in the division. You see how the way that Wigan ping the ball around us. We're just like watching it. Almost, you can see our midfield almost applauding. Oh, Christ, that's quick, isn't it? But we don't have that kind of pace in the team unless we have Egley on the pitch. So, yeah, it was another one of the frustrations. If you made a list of what was good about that game, is nobody died and we got a point. What was bad about that game, what was disappointing, you could have 3 sides of A4.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sort of sums up our season, though, in terms, like you said, the Barcham thing earlier. I also think the lack of pace. So many teams we've come up against this season have realised this, and it hasn't made particularly entertaining football, but they've got their tactics spot on in that they know if they set up in a certain way, we don't have the ability to get past them or get behind them and cause them problems. And, I mean, we moaned about the Portsmouth game back in September about us not turning up, but then we went to Portsmouth. What was it, Boxing Day? Of course it was.
Yeah.
And we saw a team that just knew, look, we're not going to do anything here. We're just going to sit ourselves up, wait for them to make mistakes, and we'll capitalise. And that's exactly what happened. And we've seen that a few times this season.
Well, they did, because it's like, we'll put the ball in the box in, right back, whoever the right back was, put the ball in the box, and Fuller will push Brett Pittman over, and we'll get a penalty, he'll score it. Oh, that's what happened again. So, yeah, you're right. Other teams are setting up against us. It's almost like we're playing, sort of football by numbers, where the team can, the opposition, the coaches or the manager or the scouts, they're going to look at them, watch our previous game before we play them. They're looking and thinking, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I don't think people, if you're going to watch a Wimbledon match because you're playing them next, not many people are coming away from that going, I didn't expect that. That was unusual, or that was interesting, or that's a good formation, or I didn't expect this to happen. We've got to watch out for that. They're kind of going, yep, let's stuck to that.
Hey, it might change on Saturday, but we'll come on to that a little bit later. I am going to play with the format a little bit. That script, which I've got wrong anyway, as we know. I'm just going to change up a little bit, because I think normally at this point we'd go through the League One fixtures results from the weekend and pick up elements of that. But we're on the subject of Milton Keynes. In fact, what I should do first is to wrap up the 90 minutes of football on the pitch. I should just wrap up and explain what my favourite GIF wraps were on Twitter. So on Twitter, at 9YRS Podcast, hashtag GIF wrap, we just ask you to sum up the game in a GIF. I will retweet our favourite 3, which this week came from, so pat yourselves on the back if you're listening, you guys, Chris Power at Chris Posho, Joe Blair at Joe Z Blair, and Daniel Bethel at Bethel71. I shall retweet those with today's published date, which is the 18th of January. So you can have a look at those. But thank you very much for everyone that replied this week, including, in fact, every one of you that used the hashtag GIFWrap. And if you haven't seen them, check it out on Twitter now. But we want to talk about the main point of this whole show is talking about the whole Milton Keynes thing. We didn't build up to it particularly. Of all the fixtures with them, easily the most low-key I think we've had.
Yep. And
I include the Johnson Pope Trophy in that because there was people going into that. It was still like a big game for us. People wanted to get a win over them after 2 defeats. This one, there was nothing really. Didn't hear anything about it really until the day. And Kevin, you're a great person to have on this week because it was your first visit. So
it was.
Let's start with that. What were your impressions as such? What were your expectations of what it was going to be like, having not gone before? And were they met? Did your experience meet those expectations, however low they might have been?
Yes, it's like he's set a low standard and failed to keep it.
Yes.
That kind of school report, isn't it? I was surprised at just how low key that was. I mean, we were still attempting to record our Facebook Live at 3:15, and you wouldn't know there was a football match on. There seemed to be more people in the KFC than there were inside the ground. There was no noise. There was nothing. I've been to the 2 home games, but that's my first of the 5 away games. I did say I'd never set foot in that place. But I thought this year, new year, new life for me, which I won't go to, new promises. So forget that. I'm going to go. And I'm glad I went, because it's interesting to see just how frenzieless that place is. And it's interesting to see how it's failed. Because let's be fair, that's quite a nice stadium. Let's give them, I don't give them any credit, because I will never do that. But if that was Walsall's new ground, you think, that's quite nice, isn't it? Seats are comfortable. It's a nice looking ground. It's not massively interesting to look at, but it's quite a nice ground, and it's quite nicely appointed, and the turnstiles work, and the stewards are very friendly, didn't that? Because they weren't fans. The bloke who frisked me was a Wolves fan. He said, I hope you smashed them. So that's quite nice.
Can I just ask you, that's not the first time you've been frisked by a Wolves fan, is it? Or was it? Third, right.
Third time.
Okay.
No, I did say don't mention that.
Right, sorry.
But she's fine now. I was just amazed at the lack of atmosphere. It was almost as if it was like a film set of a football ground, and then all the people in the ground cheering for them at random moments had like a song sheet or a script to stick to, like we do. And then they didn't know what songs to sing, and there was nothing. I think that shot by the save from Joe after about 10 minutes from Grandballs, you wouldn't know there was anyone in the ground. That was nearly a goal. Great save. There should be some regulation oohs and ahs when a keeper's come out and made a great save. Nothing. We made more noise applauding the save. And that shot from Muirhead that Joe tipped over brilliantly, that's the first time, that was 44 minutes? It was the first time that there was any noise from them. It just seemed like it's all orchestrated. And you go to Forest Green or Morecambe or Grimsby, and the fans are proper fans, and they sing their own songs, and there's an atmosphere. But it was extraordinary, and it just made me think, no, this has completely failed. The fact that, as I said, 16 years later, we had the chance to go above them again, just shows how far we've come and how far they've fallen. Because the whole point of Winkelmann taking us away and moving to Milton Keynes was that they maintained a Premier League side, because Milton Keynes deserved it. Well, no one deserves the Premier League side, because if you did, probably Portsmouth would be in the Premier League, and then Bournemouth wouldn't be. But no, it was some ways disheartening to think that you've kind of stolen our club and this is all you've done with it. But in other ways, I was quite pleased that was all they've managed to do with it. And so that moment in October 2016, when we went above them for a few weeks, they became irrelevant to me in that sense. Still never forgive them, never forget them, but I still think that is the moment I just thought, nah, life's too short. So they have failed, and we have won, although not on the pitch.
Although not in the context of the 90 minutes or over the course of 2 games this season. But I think the never forgive, never forget, that's certainly my attitude, and I can't imagine that will ever change by any Wimbledon fan, especially the Wimbledon fans that were Wimbledon fans at the time of the move. That will never change. I think it's fascinating to watch the fixture, though. It's like you say, it's a surreal fixture. Now, looking at it from a neutral's perspective, neutrals are really struggling with this one. I think Jeff Stelling had to catch himself on the TV on the weekend because he was about to use the word derby before realising, well, it's not a derby. A lot of commentators are using this term rivals, except this isn't a rivalry. We just hate them. But I guess if our players didn't turn up for that game, if however many years down the line we go into that fixture and our players just not throw the towel in, but you know what I mean, they don't put a shift in, they don't put performance in, our fans would just never let them forget it. They won't be able to. However, it's very odd, given those circumstances, only 700 odd of us ventured up there, and we can actually discuss the 9,500 attendance, which is the most fabricated figure I'd ever. Yes. If St Albans were to quote or dispute that attendance, I would actually agree with St Albans. That's how bad it was. Okay, that's how obvious it was.
They had a calculator with a very strange set of numbers on St Albans, didn't they? That didn't quite match up with the normal numbers. The Arabic system, they had their own numbers.
They didn't match up with anyone's.
I can't imagine there was more than 6,000 people in that ground.
Maybe
5,000, 5,500.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, I'd go with that.
At the most.
At the most. And yeah, it's because of our fans, the differing opinions on it, those fans, like you say, it was noticeable among those 700, like I think you alluded to earlier. A lot of unfamiliar faces as well amongst that. But
I sat behind a row of NEC Nijmegen fans who came over for the day.
They just came over for the day and fancied going to watch Milton Keynes Wimbledon.
Yeah, Nijmegen were away at a ground they boycott. I can't remember who they were playing. Or they boycott the fixture. And every time, it's always this week. Whenever they play this team, whoever it was, I forget who it was now, they don't go to the game, they go to a rival's game. So they've been to see, they saw Athens, Panathinaikos, they've seen Bayern Munich, 1860 Munich, obviously a while ago because they're now 2 divisions apart. They've been to Celtic Rangers. They always go to a derby or some closely fought game, and they realised this wasn't a derby because they said that. But he said, this is interesting to see how two teams hate each other for a different reason. It's geography or religion or close geography. He said, in your case, it's completely different. So it's just fascinating for us to watch. But they joined in the songs in the end, and they were calling them scum as well after about 20 minutes, so it was quite fun.
Well, fair play. I'm glad they chose to sit in the away end. But that's another part of this whole weird fixture thing, isn't it? Because 700 of us, there are people out there that won't step inside the stadium for various reasons. There are some that just refuse to acknowledge the existence of the opposition team. There are some that, whilst they acknowledge their existence and wants to beat them, they don't want to give a penny of their money to them in the form of an entrance fee, in the form of a ticket. And there are some people like myself. My attitude is I never wanted to go there. I had the attitude of when we first played them in the FA Cup, I didn't want anyone to go. I wanted the away end to be a symbolic empty seats, 3,000 empty seats. But once it became clear that was never going to happen, I think my attitude was the next best thing is that you sell out that away end. Half and half is no good. I think that first fixture was either a symbolic no one or it was every ticket we could sell. But I'd go there. I don't spend any money that on top of my ticket. I don't buy a program, which is totally alien concept for me. No food, no nothing. I don't even want to use their toilets, as we discussed. I do not even want to. I feel like I'm accepting their hospitality by doing so. Which is,
that Tesco's nearby was very handy, wasn't it?
It was very, very handy, yes.
Very handy for toilets and food.
Yes, that was actually the perfect stopgap between station and stadium.
And they don't own that, so I felt okay.
I felt fine doing that. Yeah. And so there's lots of differing attitudes about this fixture, which makes it just such a bizarre fixture. Where do you think as our fans collectively, do you think all this antipathy will just die out over the next few seasons? Does familiarity, instead of breeding contempt, is it actually not? Is it lessening that feeling? Because once you go there and you experience that lot, you kind of think, well, what have they got that is causing me this angst? Of course, and in that present moment, in that particular moment, you're not thinking of all the history that's gone before it. But you're looking around going, this is it. This is the big bogeyman, whatever. Yeah.
I think you're torn as a fan, aren't you? You're torn between wanting to treat it as a game because you don't really want to get involved in any, issues before or after the game. Obviously not during because you're so far away from them, as we unfortunately were before the game. Well, I think we did well to survive that horrific attack by those teenage boys. But anyway.
Can I just say, just about that? Just to clarify that one. So on Facebook Live, when we were doing a broadcast, just out of nowhere, a group of about 50 to 60 Milton Keynes youths decided to attack a couple of our fans. Punches were being thrown. We all saw it. It's all been caught on camera by the police. And then they sort of marched past us as we were doing our broadcast. And a few of them had some choice words that we ignored. I wasn't in Nam, but I'm told it was similar. Yes, Tottenham.
Well, of course, the only person they injured was one of their own fans.
Yes.
They knocked a 15-year-old girl over and she hit her arm on a bar. I mean, you've shouted at us, you've sworn at us. I think we can take that, and you've hurt one of your own fans. Well done. Mm-hmm. That's not being hard, boys. That's not being a firm. That's being something completely different, which we shan't say. But sorry.
But here's the. Sorry, I know I've interrupted your earlier point, but here's the thing about that as well. And this whatever this is we have with that club, the majority of that 50, 60, whatever, they weren't born in 2002. They weren't even alive. So the question is when I talk about this antipathy and maybe some of our fans not softening their views, but just becoming almost not indifferent either, but not really feeling anything at all for this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, that's
They're-
kind of where I fit in.
Yeah.
Because I said I was absolutely adamant. I would never go there. I see when the fixture is in. I mean, the fixtures normally come out on my birthday around then. I look and see when are we at home to them? Oh, okay, when are we away to them? Right, well, I want to go to that one. And I wasn't actually, probably about 2 weeks before, I suddenly thought, no, I'm not denying myself a chance. If I don't go to a match, it's because I can't get there, or I can't afford it, or maybe I've got other things to do. I'm away, or I'm away for work a few times. I've missed a couple of games, a home game and away game since I've been away for work. But this one, I thought, no, I'm not going to go. And I suddenly thought, no, I am going to go. What? Who's stopping me from going? I can afford to go. Okay, that's good. I'll go on the train. That's good. We'll go up with you and Stu and my son, and we'll have a nice day out. We'll enjoy the game as much as we can in the circumstances. So I kind of, sort of broke my own promise. And I totally get it. There's 5 of us who go football together. 2 of them, John and Richard, Richard's been to all 5 times he's played there, because again, he wants to go. Saturdays is his day for football. He works hard during the week. He says, no, I don't care. I'm going to go to that match. I don't want to be there. I wish it didn't exist. I want to go down or to blow up financially. But I'm going to go to that game. His brother, John, who's been on the podcast, been on our Facebook Live a couple of times. I think he's been to 3 of the 5. My friend Gareth, who I normally go with, has never been and will never go. And I was in that camp, and I thought, this time I'm going to go. But we discuss it, but we don't fall out over it. It's like, you go, now I'm going to go. And then, fine. That's how it should be. And there's a lot of stuff on Facebook where people criticising people for not going, and then they're a plastic fan if you only go to Tottenham, Nottingham, Keynes, you're a plastic fan. To me, you support the club in the way that you can. If you happen to get a great job and move to New York, does that mean you don't support the club anymore? Okay, you don't support them financially, maybe, or you might buy a shirt or whatever, watch them on iFollow. It doesn't matter. I think we should be more in it together. That game divides our fans as much as it divides the football community. I think that's the disappointing thing. If you want to go to the game, go to the game. If you want to, I agree. I didn't buy anything either. Go to the game, watch it, enjoy the 90 minutes of action, and ignore the rest and go home. That's what we did, and I think that's the way I like to do it. But again, if you want to go there and smash stuff up, there's people behind us who are breaking seats, I think. Well, certainly a couple of them weren't in the same position they started in. But the seats did come down very, very slowly. Maybe they're getting frustrated. But that's, if you want to do that, you go and do that. If you want to make a mess of the toilet floor like people have done before, go and do that. But that's the way I like to go to football. Enjoy the game, which is not always possible, and then go home again. Ignore it. It's antipathy. It's apathy. I think we took 2,000 last season.
Yep.
And only 700 this year. That does seem a strange amount of people not to go. Yeah, the football's not been particularly exciting to watch, but was it last season either? Was it the novelty of the first league game there?
Mm.
Probably was. By that point, we played them 4 times away in 4 different competitions. So maybe people wanted to go and complete the set and never go again.
Maybe also, as well, we might be putting or reading too much into things. It could be a case of last season. A lot of people, it was the beginning of December. A lot of people thought it's an away game. I can go. I'm going to go. And this season, they just looked at it as any other fixture and thought, well, we've just had Spurs win the FA Cup. It's not long since Christmas.
Yep.
This one's one to skip. This one's one to miss out on for the expense, which is fair enough. I just think, as we are having these different feelings and approaches to this, the sense that from the other side, they've suddenly cottoned on to our hostility. It was like the first time we played them, except for a handful of few with their signs like we're keeping the Dons, whatever, they seem to be treating it as a huge joke. I really don't think they understood. I think we've definitely seen that change now. I think we're hearing the songs that were coming, obviously, we were in amongst it, we're the real Wimbledon, things like that. I don't think for one second anyone actually believes that whatsoever. No. It's purely there to try and get a reaction out of us. But it does seem that they really do. I assume it's a combination of things. Jealousy will certainly be one, I'd imagine, because of, well, we've embarrassed them. And I suppose that's all it boils down to. Our mere existence and our success has totally embarrassed everything to do with that. I hesitate to call it a club because I don't know what it is. There are no. I even tweeted it out on Saturday. There are no words to describe what this actually is or where we are.
It's a fake, isn't it? It's like a sham rather than a football club. Nothing about that is a proper English football club. Again, teams, you go to Morecambe or Bristol Rovers or any of those clubs, they're proper football clubs, they're proper football people. And okay, the fans everyone hates each other for a bit, and you get the occasional Milton Keynes song when we play other teams away, but most of the time there's proper football people. I'm sure that's a real person, but they just didn't seem to be. They've cottoned onto the rivalry, and they try and wind us up, which didn't work. They've also seemed to have cottoned onto. Well, they haven't cottoned onto the fact that there has to be an atmosphere, regardless of the performance. So, that was not a particularly exciting game. They didn't play very well at all. There was nothing. They didn't sing. They didn't try and encourage the team. When they had a shot or a corner, there's a mild applause. But there was no songs. It was just, I just don't know. I've been to a few American sports, not wrestling, I have to add. And you get no atmosphere there, largely because it's so bloody far from who you're playing. So you go and see Washington, D.C. United play San Jose Earthquakes. And it's 3,000 miles apart, and there are no away fans, so there's no atmosphere. But here, it's only 60 miles away, which is, I know it's kind of ironic, isn't it? But when they moved our club 60 miles away, we said, we're not going 60 miles. We're not going 60 miles away. That's wrong. I'm for our own club. But when we play them away and people don't go, we say, but it's only 60 miles. Why aren't you gone? So, I don't know. It's a dichotomy and a dilemma, isn't it? It's a dichotomy impaled on the horns of a dilemma, wrapped up in an enigma.
Is that another Partridge quote?
No, Churchill.
Oh.
Although it wasn't about football.
It does sound like a Partridge quote, though.
It should be, shouldn't it?
It should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
It isn't.
I just had to pick up on one quick point before I go off completely on a tangent. American wrestling crowds, it really just depends where you are with wrestling for atmospheres. If you're in Chicago, maybe Montreal, which I know is Canada, but Philadelphia, you're going to get good atmospheres. If you go to some other places, maybe Tennessee or something, probably not as great. But that's Ohio or somewhere. But anyway, the last thing we have to sort of move on, I'm afraid, with the whole Milton Keynes thing. One last point I will make: you mentioned about the stewarding and stuff like that. They definitely seem to have employed the nicey approach, and we're all your best mates and we're your pal sort of approach to try and calm things down. I don't like. I know it sounds rude of me and whatever. I don't like engaging with anyone around that club. I once did. The press, I once got pressed in for the Johnson Paint Trophy game, actually. I got passed in, so I didn't have to pay them a penny. But it did mean that I had to speak to people from their side, and it was a horrendous experience having to do that. Don't like to get involved with them. Generally, though, the big question I would like to ask, I might put this as a poll on Twitter as well, and I'd like just your quick answer to this one, Kevin. You have two options with that club. You are made, let's just say, for argument's sake, king of the world. Best job I can think in the world ever. And you can either completely get rid of that football club, dissolve it, whatever, liquidate it, whatever you want to do with it, and they cease to exist, and that stadium gets turned into something that's useful, like housing, for instance. Or you relegate them to the 9th tier of English football, and you say, Milton Keynes, you are a town, by the way. So many reports of this city, nonsense. Town of Milton Keynes. You can have your football club. You're going to start at the very bottom and work your way up, though. Which one do you choose?
Option 1.
Get rid entirely. Would you be against someone setting up a totally fresh Milton Keynes team?
Well, that's what they should have done in the first place. Well, they had one, didn't they?
They had a few, in fact.
Called Milton Keynes City.
Yes.
Who they dissolved in 2000. They were in the Midland Spartan League Division 2. And apparently, this is not a plot, apparently it's true. A friend of mine is in Stony Stratford. Said that their last attendance before they folded was 11. So, and then when they moved our club there, and it's all frenzy of football, Milton Keynes deserves football. He was like, well, you've had one, you've just lost it. You don't deserve another one. It's like you buy a kid a present, and he goes, oh, I really want it. Oh, thanks. And they lose it. They go, can I have another one? No, you've just lost that present. You'll have another one now.
Yeah.
It's like my eldest son is now 20. We bought him a Tamagotchi when he was 4. He dropped it in the bath. You're not supposed to do that with Tamagotchis. And then he wanted another one. No, you're not having another one. You've just bought it. Why can't I not? No. And he got very upset. He still never forgot me 16 years later. But that's what they've done. You've had a football club and you've lost it. You've dropped it in the bath. You've ruined it. And you don't deserve another one. Build your own. Yes, if they'd started again and said, okay, let's start again in the Midland Spartan League or whatever the version of the combined council would be, probably that if it still exists, the Midland Spartan League, start again. See how difficult it is. You would not get... They wouldn't be in League One as quickly as we got there in 14 years. It would never happen. It's the whatever we've got, we've done it twice. Because when I started supporting Wimbledon in 1978, I didn't imagine for a minute that 8 years later we'd win promotion to the old First Division of the Premier League, if you want to call it that. So in that amount of time, and we've done it again. Gone from the bottom tier of football to League Two in 9 years, and then up again. It's extraordinary. The fact we've done it once is amazing. The fact it's happened again is incredible. No one will ever do that once, let alone twice. But they should try again. Start again. Start from the bottom. Work your way up. See how hard it is. And then we'll call you the real Milton Keynes then, because you're not.
If doing something once is incredible, doing something twice, there are no words for it. To do something 3 times would be unspeakable. I don't know. There is a word has not yet been invented for what that would be, but that is what we're going to do now with the 3rd outing of the George Long Road to Wembley.
Oh, is this where I should test my knowledge?
This is where I'm going to test your sort of Wimbledon-esque knowledge linked to the knowledge of teams that we beat en route to winning the FA Cup in 1988.
Okay.
Now, as you may have known, I don't know how aware listeners are. We're flying close to the win this week. I think this is late in the day, isn't it? So it's a bit of a no frills podcast this week. So we're just going to get straight into it with the questions. To give you an indication, I am currently watching Chelsea versus Norwich is on in the background as we record this. Norwich got an injury time equaliser to take it into extra time.
Did they? Oh,
yes,
good.
Robbie Earle.
I've been in Norwich today, so I'm pleased with it.
Yes, I'm pleased because it's causing Chelsea problems. It was Robbie Earle-esque away at Old Trafford, that moment for Norwich fans, I would suggest. It was a header that went in front of the away end, and they got very nice. Excited. So now, well done, and I think one of the Chelsea players has been booked for diving, and it went to the VAR, and he still got booked for diving. So anyway,
there we go.
George Long Road to Wembley, 2 questions. We're going to start with West Brom, as we always do. That's who we beat in the 3rd round back in 1988. Yes. Kevin, which former Oxford United manager has coached at both Wimbledon and West Bromwich Albion?
Say again. Can you repeat the question?
I can indeed. Which former Oxford United manager
yes.
has coached at both Wimbledon and West Bromwich Albion?
David Kemp.
It is. Wow. Straight in. Yes, David Kemp indeed.
Thank you. I got distracted. I don't know why. I did hear the question. I just couldn't. I didn't get it. Didn't process at all.
I see. There you go. David Kemp, of course, who produced our early AFC Wimbledon non-league season review videos, I believe. Mansfield Town.
Mansfield Town, yep.
Yeah, that was a lie about David Kemp. In 2010, which player scored on his Wimbledon debut against Mansfield?
Nathan Elder.
It is Nathan Elder. Do you know what the great thing is?
His first touch, wasn't it?
He signed like the day before. Do you know what the great thing is?
2-0 win. I think Lewis Taylor got the second goal with a shot in the bottom corner.
I think you are correct, yes. What's brilliant is that my scripting is well off this week because although I changed the questions, I didn't change the answers. So although I knew it was Nathan Elder, I hadn't written that down. And my answer is, in fact, Keith Curle. Hilariously. It was not Keith Curle. It was definitely Nathan Elder. Newcastle. So you've made it to the 5th round. So you've already beaten Stu already by getting to the 5th round. Stu's fallen at Mansfield. Mansfield has knocked Stu out the last 2 weeks. So,
sorry, Stu.
5th round, Newcastle. Can you tell me what is the historical significance of our last win against Newcastle United, which came in the year 2000? The historical significance of our last win against Newcastle United, which came in the year 2000.
Was it our last away win in the Premier League?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it has to be. I can't think of what it is.
I'm afraid it's the wrong answer. Newcastle have knocked you out. I'll tell you for why. It was actually a home game. Yes, but I didn't want to give too much information because it might give away the historical significance. If I tell you the scoreline, it might give you a clue. We won 2-0.
Yes.
There is something in that scoreline which is of historical significance.
Last clean sheet in the Premier League.
It was indeed. That was our last clean sheet in the Premier League.
I was quite close, though.
Yes.
I knew it was something to do with last.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Yeah.
That was our last Premier League season.
I was looking forward to the quarter-final offer question.
No. Hope we never get there because I have to mention that name on the podcast. But then, should Stu one day or whoever beat Watford, it's Luton, of course, in the semi-final. So
yes, we
can but dream.
You like them, don't you? You've got a thing for Luton.
Yes, Luton are my second club. My first club is Wimbledon, which doing this sort of stuff is always handy, really, isn't it?
I think working for or being a fan of the club and supporting them is, or at least having them as your favourite team, I think is it's not a requirement.
No,
but it's definitely a nice thing to have, I'd say.
Yeah, it certainly aids things, doesn't it? Yes.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I was looking forward to getting to the final.
I'm afraid it's not. No, I'm afraid, Kevin, it's not happening this time. You might be able to win, however, our new competition. We shall read out the responses to this on next week's podcast. We had a great response to our last competition/contest, which was the Make Stu Smile competition with your short jokes. And this week, to go back to the Milton Keynes situation, there was a photograph posted on Twitter, which has now made it into some of the national newspapers in inverted commas, maybe, of a group of Milton Keynes youths who, for whatever reason, decided to take the team bus sign from our team coach, from the AFC Wimbledon team coach on Saturday, and pose pictures with it. I have edited that to change the message on we'll call it a placard, shall we? Maybe we'll call this... What have I called this competition? I gave it a proper name earlier. I don't know what it is now.
Sign O the Times, maybe.
Well, we'll go with that. Sign O the Times.
Well, it's got a good advert for Tempest Delay, though, wasn't it?
It was a great advert for them.
Better than actually having it on the side of the team bus was having it on Twitter and in the Daily Mail.
And in the yes, which is very rare you could say that. But the caption I went for was what was it? We stole a league place 16 years ago, and all we've got to show for it is this lousy sign.
I think people would struggle to beat that. I did laugh out loud at
that. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to give people the option now to come up with their own, clean, hopefully. If you feel free to swear, we might just not use it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But yes, what caption or what message would you like that board to read? And the winning entry, I shall create that sign for you with the winning message, saying whatever you like. Kevin, can you say your suggestion? Your first suggestion? No.
I did quite like, though, the fact that I just like that they stole a sign. They stole a sign and posted it on Twitter with all their faces in full view.
Yes.
I'm just sorry. I just think you can't even do that right. So there was four of them, all had hoods on. It was a girl with long posted the picture. I don't know if she was one of them. She didn't appear to be. She looked very manly if she was one of the four. And he said, well, if you're going to do that, cover your faces up, put your hoods up. There were two hoods up, two hoods down. You can't even coordinate theft. But it was quite ironic, wasn't it, that they stole our club, now you're stealing our sign. Just leave us alone. Stop stealing our stuff. Make your own thing. Make your own coach sign.
Stop stealing my stuff.
It was pathetic, I'm afraid.
Yes, well, pathetic is the word. We didn't sing it this year, that fixture this season, but last season it was the You're Just Embarrassing song. I think that sums that everything up to do with them, to be honest. So that's the competition. It's on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Facebook. It's a new thing. It's also going to be on Facebook as well. Facebook.com/9.
The ISIS version is called Dashbook.
Very, very good. There's so many jokes I want to make there, but I'm going to...
Street manager, Liam Dashbook. We'll stop that.
Let's stop there. There's so many jokes I want to make about that.
Delroy Facey book.
I thought we were stopping this now.
No, I'm stopping now.
Okay. All right. Maybe like fans of pepper spray, it'd be Mace book.
There we go. We could do this forever.
Well, forever might be a stretch.
Well, my friends published a book. Denise and Steve, they published a book about 5 years ago called Jesus on Thy Book. So basically, it was a whole load of Facebook pages, but done in biblical times. Hilarious. Nice. You can still get it on Amazon. Fantastic book. Jesus on Thy Book, it's called.
I'll have to...
It's funniest book I've ever read.
I'll have to try and find it. Maybe somebody's selling it on this comedy duo social media site I use, Hale and Pacebook.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I like that. Or is there a religious one called Faithbook?
I'm sure there is. There's probably someone out there called with that name, Faithbook. Probably a woman.
Oh, probably is.
And ironically, she's an atheist. The competition is on our Facebook page, facebook.com/9wirers podcast. Just comment on the picture or underneath the picture I've put up, and we shall read out the best ones, or hopefully all of them, next week. We are running rapidly out of time. Blackpool, let's look ahead very quickly to the Blackpool game. They are going into the game. They are currently 16th, 5 points above us and 4 above the relegation zone. Do you know, I couldn't believe this when I looked it up. I don't really pay much attention to Blackpool. I don't really care. They knocked Luton out of the playoffs last season, so I don't particularly like them. No one particularly likes them at the minute because they're owners. They only lost one of their first 8 games in the league this season. Now they've only won 3 of their last 20. That is horrendous form.
That's terrible form. That's that's probably the worst form in the league, isn't it? Right up than Bury.
Apart from Bury, who just lose every week without scoring. And we haven't even touched on... Oh, there's so many things we haven't even touched on. Very quickly then, just quick prediction for Blackpool, because we're running out of time. We have to talk about, because of course the other big news we haven't spoken about is the fact Bury manager's gone. Yes, Chris Leketti's gone. Southend manager's gone. Phil Brown's gone. Lots of teams at the bottom sacking their managers. We've kept faith with ours, and we've now brought in a striker who should make his debut, we anticipate, against Blackpool, Joe Pigott.
Should.
It all comes back...
There's no guarantee to make his debut, is there?
There is no guarantee. We do not know until the day itself.
No,
but
we don't know.
You hope that gives us a little bit something different for this fixture, which is a must-win. It is a must-win, isn't it? And we have to be favourites going into it, surely.
Yeah, we should be. I haven't seen much of Blackpool, but I watched the Goal Rush on Channel 5, and they do seem to. Their defenders look like they've never met before.
Yes.
The last 3 or 4 games, they've let in some really, really poor goals. Not soft goals, but poor goals where their 3 players have gone for the same ball and left somebody unmarked. That's great. I hope they continue that. But yeah, I think with Joe Pigott coming in, good. If he listens to this, welcome, Joe. Hope you do well. But my point, as I think I've made somewhere before on social media, but he fits the bill, doesn't he, perfectly. He's young, he's athletic, he's decent with his feet, he's decent in the air, he's quick, he wants to come. He was only 25 grand, and he's not going to cost a huge amount of money, right? So, in terms of wages, so that he fits that bill. The issue is the bill that he fits, because that's the pool we're fishing in. The pond we're fishing in is very, very shallow. Maybe we can get Carlton Cole, and we don't know at this stage. Apparently, he may have a trial elsewhere. But people have been saying on Facebook or other social medias and on Wimbledon Underground Press, I want to get this striker and that striker, and you think they're on 10 grand a week. Probably we're not going to afford that. We need someone like him. I'm happy. If we get someone from non-league, he's done Peterborough very well. Peterborough got Madison. Let's not mention him again, but he's a very good player. Forgetting his behaviour on the pitch, he's a very good player. Got him from Gateshead. They've got that Danny Lloyd, didn't they, who scored against us in the home game. They got him from... Was he Chester? I forget where he was. He was non-league. They've done very well getting non... Ricky Miller was a good signing. Obviously, it's gone off the rails a bit, but I don't have a problem with signing non-league players. And... when managers talk about, I thought Mark Hughes before he got sacked said we need to bring a few more bodies in. I think for us, Joe Pigott is a body. He probably wasn't first choice. He's probably further up Neil Ardley's list of priorities than Paul Lambert was on Stokes' list of priorities. But he was probably our 4th or 5th choice striker to get in, and the other one's gone. We understand James Hansen was first, but apparently he has children, and would he be on loan in a London club when he's from up north? He's only ever played up north. Again, he's a family person. He's gone to Bury. Not a great idea, but hey, he's up north. We get that. Same reason why Danny Kedrell left us, wasn't it? Was for his kids.
Yeah.
Fine. So, Joe Pigott fits what we need and what we can afford. But is what we can afford and what we need going to keep us up? But he's a body. He's someone to come in. He's an option on Saturday. We would love to have had a striker on the bench, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
A tall striker to cause them problems.
Yeah.
Because Lyle, as well as Lyle's been playing, he's not particularly tall. Is he 5'11", 6 foot the most? Cody's my height, as we've mentioned before. Not going to win many headers. Bring on someone who's 6'2". We played against him, of course, early in the season, didn't he, in the FA Cup? They may have already noticed he's a good player.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I'm happy with the signing. I get why people are saying, we're signing non-league players. But fine. Where do we get Vinnie Jones from? I think give the guy a chance. I hope he does really well. But I think another striker would be good. If it is Carlton Cole, great. If it's somebody else, great. If it's someone from non-league. A friend of mine supports Dartford. And so the best player he's seen in Conference South ever is this kid who's been playing for Whitehawk, who's called Gold something. His first name is Gold.
Okay.
GLD. And he said he's the best player in Conference South he's ever seen. I think he's got 6 in 3.
Okay.
Well, he's playing for Whitehawk. I've no idea. He's only got 7 points. But someone like that. If you bring him in, or there's a guy from Hendon, apparently he's very good. Muir, I think it's called Muir.
I think we might have missed the boat on that one. I think the Hendon one's gone elsewhere. But QPR, I think, possibly. Okay. Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think we have to be very mindful on Saturday, though, that he's played in the league before, but scored against us, of course, for Newport. He might need a bit of time just to get back into the Football League. And unfortunately, because of the way our season's gone and because this extra striker, this big tall striker, has been on our radar since it seems like the first game of the season, to be honest with you, the pressure on him from a lot of people is going to be huge. People are going to be wanting him to make an instant impact that's going to get us motoring up the table. We just need to, let's just be a little bit patient. We're still in January. Give him a few games to settle in, and then we can really see what he could offer us. But on the face of it, happy. Yeah. We're happy. We're happy as it stands. So
we're only a win on Saturday, and then Milton Keynes and Oldham lose, and we're 19th.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So we've got 2 difficult away games. When you look at some of the other games we've got coming up in February, we've got 7 games in February, which is extraordinary for shortest month of the year. I mean, that was 7 games. 3 wins out of those 7 games, and we're mid-table. It's very, very close. This division, isn't it? There's only a few points separating 13th and 22nd. I mean, there'll be pressure on Joe Pigott, but I don't think, hopefully, not that much. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win with Joe Pigott coming off the bench and scoring the 3rd goal.
We'd all take that, and yes, I also anticipate goals. I do expect goals on Saturday. Blackpool, having seen them last season as well, defensively, not great, bad form. Got to be a win. Got to be a win. Most important for us. That is pretty much our hour up. I have a few messages before we depart.
Okay.
Before we go, don't forget, of course, updates from the game against Blackpool at 9YRS Podcast on Twitter. We hope there will be a Facebook Live broadcast at some point, as long as we have somewhere to record and we're not moved on and it's not in the middle of nowhere, or we find ourselves in the middle of nowhere.
Run by the Blackpool Massive. Sorry, I'm laughing at that. As a concept. But anyway.
Yes.
We'll be fine. It's a home game. We're fine.
We'll be fine.
And unfortunately, we don't have the new venue we were hoping for. That has been confirmed, Nick, I'm afraid. I'm telling you now, live on this, that we don't have the novelty venue that we're hoping for the weekend.
Well, maybe another time. Definitely
another time, just not this one.
No, it's a shame, because it would have been useful in the cold to have somewhere.
It would, exactly, yes.
Because it's getting very nippy at the moment with that wind. Anyway, the Saturday game, Blackpool as well, Wimbledon Food Bank collection. Just plug in this. So if you have any food that you'd like to donate, or you can donate, you're willing to donate, or if you just want to go out and buy some food and bring it to the game on Saturday, it'll be much appreciated. I think it's Hyde Park and South Wimbledon that are collecting. Stocks at this time of year tend to go down. I think there's a big Christmas rush for food banks, and then it gets to the new year and people obviously forget about things. This is where they actually really struggle. So if you've got anything to donate, please do so. There are more details on the official website, which is afcwimbledon.co.uk, if you did not already know. And with that said, it is time for us to go. Thank you very much, Kevin, for joining me, for filling in for Stu this week, wherever he is.
Well, thank you for having me. And Stu, I hope you're well, wherever you are. I hope you're safe. Do call us and let us know that you're safe. You don't have to come home, but just let us know that you're safe, Stu. Thank you.
Yes. Hashtag where is Stu ? We're saying all this. We do anticipate that he will be back next week. So thank you for joining. Thank you for listening this week. And please do listen to us again next week, when we anticipate being joined by one Mr. Stuart Deakins, who I think is going to tell us about his experiences driving barefoot to Dundee whilst gorging on Toblerone.
Let's hope he does. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. He doesn't drive, does he? He'll be driven. Someone's driving him. So if someone's driving him to Dundee, he eats a Toblerone, are they barefoot or is he barefoot? Does it matter?
He would have to be barefoot. He would have to be barefoot.
Okay, fine.
Who do you think would drive him to Dundee?
Well, I presume his wife. But having said that, he's already been her, isn't he? So I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think she's going to be driving him to Dundee, although there's family up in Scotland for them. I'm trying to think who. I think Lamar from Fame Academy possibly would drive Stu to Dundee.
Well, it's funny because I watched that. I didn't think much of him, but he's won a few Bobos, hasn't he?
He has indeed.
He had a greatest hits out, Lamar. Did a very interesting cover of I Believe in a Thing Called Love by The Darkness. Just him and the piano. Very nice.
That would be very interesting. Maybe
Google that.
Maybe
Lamar, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, and you'll like it. It's very good.
Maybe he played it for Stu on the CD player in the car when they were driving. Who knows?
Or maybe Alex Parks is driving him to Dundee.
Maybe that's what it takes. Alex Parks to come up.
Scottish kid, Ainsley, wasn't it?
Oh, I liked Ainsley. He was good.
Yeah, because that's very funny because his hero was Ian McCulloch, Member of the Bunnymen, and then he played a song, didn't he, at the end of one show, and he rushed off the stage and cuddled him live on TV. McCulloch pushed him away. Hilarious. That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Being pushed away onto the floor by your own hero, which I think that's great.
Got to be.
For me, that'd be Robin Williams, and he's dead, so that's not possible.
I'd quite happily let Alexa Bliss push me to the floor and wrestle me to the floor and put me in many holds.
As long as I wasn't there to watch it, you can do what you like.
On that note, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, and we will speak to you again next week.